should I find a different co-founder? Like it's not like we doubted our relationship, but I doubted the whole, should we continue working together? Because when you're going through a lot of problems, it puts a stress on the relationship. So obviously I wanted to save the relationship before I save the company. And I was like, okay, this was pretty hard to go through. Almost everything you see online, almost everything, there's a few things that are real, but almost everything you see online can be bought and can be manipulated with money. There's a lot of our competitors, there's a lot of people that buy these Trustpilot reviews. And you can actually go on Upwork and you can buy Trustpilot reviews, right? And you can buy anything. You can make anything online appear as if it's in your favor when people have just paid for this. For example, right, one of my friends opened a restaurant in Peru. He was asking people to vote for him on this like award ceremony. And I opened the site and there's 20 or 30 other restaurants that are going for this award ceremony. And I was like, dude, if you don't buy likes on Upwork or whatever, your competitor will buy these likes. And unfortunately, that really makes a business.
Behind the Hustle.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Behind the Hustle, the show where we fight back against success porn on social media. If you're anything like me, you're sick and tired of being bombarded with endless success stories, and you know they're just the tip of the iceberg. I interview successful entrepreneurs about the realities of their journey, the setbacks and failures, mental health consequences, and most importantly, how they endured for a long time before ultimately finding success. No matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, hopefully this is a reminder that you're not alone when things get dark and a source of motivation for you to keep going. My guest today is Nate Landman, a world traveler, technologist, and serial entrepreneur. Nate is clearly not afraid to try new things. In the first 10 years of his career, he's already booked one success, one failure, and is currently working on his third technology business, AI marketing assistant Stella AI. He's launching Stella off the back of fast and unexpected success with Tryiton.ai, his AI headshot generator that went viral on TikTok, reaching 7 figures in revenue in its first 5 months. But Nate tasted success in the AI space only after a failed attempt to build his first company, an online platform for freelance wellness coaches. Nate joins us today to recount a roller coaster of a journey that has taken him all over the world, from the US to Hong Kong to Nigeria and back. He is a digital nomad in every sense of the word. Nate, welcome to the show. Where in the world are you today?
Thanks for the intro. Yeah, we're in San Francisco right now, which is a bit less exciting than our previous locations, but all the better. Exciting for me for sure.
Is this like a semi-permanent thing for you, or is it just like another stop on the digital nomad journey?
We came thinking it would be another stop in the digital nomad journey, but we've been here about a week and a half, and we've met so many people that can relate to our journey, that can give us a lot of feedback, that they've slowly convincing us to stay a bit longer than expected. So maybe we'll stay here a bit more.
Is the fact that you're at the epicenter of the AI boom like a huge draw for you to stay in San Francisco?
Yeah, 100%. I think when our previous 2 companies were bootstrapped and we did them using our money and going around and figuring things out on our own and reading stuff online and LinkedIn cold messaging, but this third time around, we do it a bit more properly. And just being here for a week and a half, it almost makes everything else, like all those people that raise a lot of money and say, with like just an idea, it all seemed almost like vague and out of touch. But now that we're here, it seems a lot more palpable and a lot more doable. So I think it's giving us that oomph to go the next level. So we're probably going to stay a bit more, I think, just because of the AI epicenter.
So you were an MIT computer science grad. It's like pretty easy to slide into the corporate lifestyle. How did you avoid doing that and become a digital nomad with all the credentials that you had?
The digital nomad was another thing I fell into in a way, mostly because we were in Hong Kong and we were working from our house, and then the rest of the world opened up for COVID. This is in 2022, which is a very long time ago already. The world opened up for COVID and Hong Kong locked down again, and I was just going crazy. And I was like, okay, let's pack up. Lease comes up, pack up everything, go to Bali first. And we're like, all right, let's just travel a little bit until Hong Kong opens up, right? So Hong Kong opens up in November. We waited from April until November. And then in November, we came back to Hong Kong, but it just didn't feel right. Like the scenes were changing a lot. And yeah, we didn't need to be there. And I think that in the nomading lifestyle, you definitely get a bug where, say we're in Brazil and you're like, man, I'm just right next to Argentina. Why don't I just jump over and spend some time there too? Like that, it's been 2 years. And almost, I think after the 1 year mark, every city we go to, we're like, all right, this is the last one. After this one, we're going to pick a city and settle down. But we just keep doing it.
What have you found to be the biggest downsides or the hardest part of being a digital nomad?
At the beginning, It was certainly the friend side, right? The first few cities you go to, you're really excited to meet a bunch of people. You go to all these meetups, you introduce yourself. And after you introduce yourself for the 50th time to the 50th random person, you don't want to go out as much anymore and you kind of stay home. And then you go on Instagram and you see your friends, say from Hong Kong or from the US, and they go on a party on a Saturday night and you're like staying home. That kind of gets a little bit lonely. I've only been able to continue doing it because I'm doing it with my partner, right? It's a bit easier, I think. Yeah. So from a life point of view, that's something that people do face. You do spend a lot of time organizing where you're going to stay and where you're going to fly, what day you're going to fly. And you do spend a lot of time doing that. But at the same time, if time is a constraint, then you don't have any social commitments because you don't know anybody in the city that you go to. If you want to really work hard, then you can. Nobody's going to be like, yo, let's go for a beer.
Do you think that this lifestyle hurts or helps your ability to execute as an entrepreneur?
I think it really depends on what stage of your company you're in. If you're trying to come up with ideas, it's probably good because you expose yourself to a different market, you expose yourself to a different suite of apps, a different way of that people do things. You ask yourself like, oh man, if this guy's doing this, why can't I do that? I think it really helps you. But once you've come up with the idea and you want to go really hard at one idea, it's probably easier to settle down. Like even now, right now that we're in San Francisco, just in this week and a half, we've been able to meet some key people that are interested in the stuff that we're building. Imagine like next month we decide to pick up and go somewhere else, then we're going to lose touch with those people that could be our potential cheerleaders along the way. So it depends. It depends on what stage of your company you're in for sure. And what your ambitions are too, right? If you want it to be like a lifestyle business, then it's really fun. You can continue traveling.
Let's talk about your first business. What was the idea for the company and what problem were you trying to solve?
Yeah, so this is definitely a big learning, I think, for us. We like to do a whole bunch of sporty activities all the time. Especially in Hong Kong, there are so many things in terms of sports that people do, like dragon boating and tennis and soccer, and everything's like right around the corner. So a lot of people are doing a lot of these activities. Yeah, and we thought the space was pretty fragmented, and we dove headfirst into designing the solution before even thinking about like the business plan and like the market size and the expansion and all these things. It was very much, we have this problem, let's just go solve it. The problem was that it was very fragmented. People didn't know that you could do some things. We did start from a problem, but I think the problem was not as big as we thought it was, so that when we started building this and our ambitions started to grow alongside the project, then we realized, oh man, we're not going to make it in Hong Kong. This is not going to be a Hong Kong only company, right?
Can you describe the product itself?
So it all stems from discovery. So it's a marketplace, right? It's a marketplace and we have like instructors or people that organize events and then the attendees to these events and people that want to get classes, right? So we married that idea with a group buying experience, right? A Groupon obviously was like an incredible business idea. And we wanted to leverage that kind of group activity with in-person physical activity. So the idea was you would book like a tennis coach and then you don't want to spend as much money. Then we give you some incentive to bring somebody else to your class you would split the bill with, right? That was in short the idea. Now there's a lot of problems with marketplaces and the things we learned along the way when it comes to designing a marketplace, but that's roughly what it was. It was a marketplace for activities and you to meet people to do the activities with.
Yeah, so you were connected, just put concisely, you were connecting people who were hosting activities with people who who couldn't easily discover those activities.
Not just the activities, but also other people to join the activity so they can split the bill.
So you're making it cheaper, you're enabling discovery and spreading out the cost among more people by getting more people to do it. How did you make money through a transaction processing fee, or did you charge them a subscription fee or something?
Yeah, we did it based on transaction, just a commission, Airbnb. But we realized that you're right, we should have charged a subscription. The problem is the instructors are the people that create these events. And a lot of marketplaces suffer from a disintermediation problem where as soon as you get the connection, the person's going to share their phone number and get out of the platform and do the transaction outside the platform. Because a lot of instructors, they need the money and they just can do that in order to make some 10 Hong Kong dollars. So that happened a lot. And then the other problem is once you find an instructor, people would just take it off the platform and have the events, have the activities off the platform. To be honest, what killed the business, I think me and my co-founders, we have different ideas of what did it. But to me, I personally ran out of steam because the code base was not very good. And when I quit my job and I was like, all right, I'm going to start coding, I looked at all the stuff that all the people that we had hired had built. And I was like, man, we're going to have to rewrite a lot of this because it's not scalable. It's not ready for change. It's not very good. And I was like, okay, we're at this pivotal point where we either rewrite the entire app and we change the business model slightly, or we just write a different app altogether. So I think at that moment, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do something else.
What was that like for you?
This is just combined with the fact that I did it with my partner, right? I did it with Addy. So then we do work well together, but I think at that point, okay, should I find a different co-founder? Like it's not like we doubted our relationship, but I doubted the whole, should we continue working together? Because when you're going through a lot of problems, it puts a stress on the relationship. So obviously I wanted to save the relationship before I save the company. And I was like, okay, this was pretty hard to go through. There's a classic thing that a lot of people tweet about is that when you finish this relationship, be it with your partner or be it with your co-founders, you immediately look, say like that person filled 80% of the things that make you happy or help your business go forward. In your next relationship, you immediately focus on the 20% that they didn't fill. I was like, I need somebody technical to be my co-founder. I need somebody that is really going to build all the tech side because I don't have that much experience. So I doubted. I was like, all right, I don't know if I'm going to build another company with Addy. So we actually took a break from the company building. I found another co-founder. She found another co-founder. So that was pretty hard. Yeah. And then the other one is obviously, okay, I guess I'm going to have to go look for a job again. So that was not in the radar whatsoever. And then as soon as you shut down the company, you're like, all right, what's next? I guess I'm going to look for a job. So I actually started applying for a few jobs. I reached out to a few recruiters. I was lining that up as a potential next thing to do.
If you could do it all over again and still start the same business, what would you have done differently?
I think I would have likely figured out the business plan before going in a little bit more and realizing that like, people are going to do the disintermediation thing, figure out how much people are willing to pay if they get into a subscription. So one of our competitors was ClassPass, right? And ClassPass was doing this pretty nefarious practice where they would have studios sign a contract and they would lock themselves into this contract that is irrevocable. And then it's exclusive. So they had that exclusive partnership with ClassPass. Yeah. I could have studied that a little bit more and been like, okay, these studios are never going to sign up with us because they have this exclusive partnership with ClassPass. We also gambled because Hong Kong was getting out of COVID, and then they locked down again. And that was a pretty big blow into the business. And we probably shouldn't have gambled that and just gone out of Hong Kong immediately with it. But
can I ask, just if you're comfortable sharing, how much did you personally lose on Rocket?
I think it was around 50K more or less US because we were not frugal at all. We were doing, we gave merchandise to all the instructors. We gave out free backpacks to people we were spending a lot because I still had my full-time job. So I was basically funneling the money I would get from my full-time job into the startup.
That's also like another classic early mistake. You read all the literature
Yeah.
on like how to start a startup, but ultimately like it's very hard to be disciplined on your first go. So I hear you. So in this digital nomading lifestyle, what do you do for money when your ventures aren't making money?
When I quit the job, I look up my savings and I was like, all right, I'm going to give myself 1 year of digital nomading and not being completely frugal, like staying in good hotels and having good Wi-Fi and getting our WeWork membership. I calculated about a year of runway and I said, okay, if in a year I don't have something that's making me money, I'll go back to a job. And basically my runway was more than a year. It was like a year and like 4 months. But I gave myself I said, okay, if in 1 year I'm not making money, I have 4 months to find a job.
That ultimately didn't happen. And you started Tryiton.ai,
Yeah.
which for people who don't know is an AI tool to generate corporate headshots. And it was very successful. And then it sounds like since you moved on, we talked about recently, it fizzled out a little bit, maybe due to competition. Let's talk about that business. So you were thinking about getting a job, and I believe it all started with you entering a hackathon.
We were in Italy when we had the conversation with the co-founders and we decided to shut down the company. And then I spent like a month or two. We were in Lisbon then. I spent a month or two around blockchain. Like crypto was a big thing and everybody was doing stuff in crypto. So I started learning how to do crypto stuff. I joined an accelerator. I joined Antler. If you've heard of it, it's like now they're pretty big, but it's an accelerator. You come in and they don't give you, it's no strings attached. In New York City. So we went to New York. So ChatGPT had not come out yet, but I had seen a guy at Antler work with GPT-3. GPT-3 was basically this website and you come in and you just like type something and it just gives you the answer. But it was not in the chat interface, but it was just like text completion. And I was fascinated. And I was like, man, I used to love doing like NLP stuff. I really want to do something in machine learning. Like this GPT-3 is awesome. So yeah, we joined this hackathon. Our original idea was for people to try on clothes, and we did a little bit of it, but the fidelity of the clothing wasn't very good. And we hadn't even done a website. I was just like prototyping some things in Python, the language that I know, right? Everything I know basically. And yeah, and the clothing was not looking so good, but the headshots were looking really good. So we just posted it on some Facebook groups. Yeah, and it just took off. Like within a week or 2 weeks of conceiving this idea, it was like the market fit was like there. And it was obviously a combination of like technological breakthrough coupled with like us knowing how to take advantage of this technological breakthrough that gave us the motivation to just pursue this.
Then what is your next
Yeah.
move?
Addie is a member of a bunch of different Facebook groups, and she identifies some of the KOLs, some of the key opinion leaders in these Facebook groups, and she's, hey, like, we can do this thing for you for free. Look at my results. And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? So they email us their photos, and we put it through this Python script, and out comes the headshots, and we give them to her, and she loved them. She loved them, and she was posting about it everywhere. She posted about it on like her YouTube channel, her Instagram, her TikTok, her whatever. And then all of her friends start to email us like, how can I get it? How can I get it, please? And we were like, all right, this is clear. And this is, 2 weeks in, we barely had a Python script. So basically the flow is, as soon as we realized this was going to be a thing and people really were asking us how they can pay us, we set up a landing page on Wix, on Wix, just like a no code and a Wix payment integrator. And then the idea is as soon as they pay us, I set up this like a trigger and it would send me an email that somebody paid us. So then I would send them an email being like, hey, email me your 20 photos or 10 photos or whatever, and we'll just run the script for you. So we were doing this manually for the first 100 people. Yeah.
Presumably, it becomes too overwhelming to be doing manual Python script running for more than 100 people. What is like the next move that you make?
At that point, I think ChatGPT came out. If it was like February, I think it was February that it came out. We hired a few people to run the script and to select the good photos and delete the bad photos, but they were not very good. And it's a very tedious process. And it's so subjective that the person that comes from Upwork or whatever, they look at a photo and they're like, yeah, this looks good. And it's a horrible photo, but to them it looks good. Right? But the thing is, Addie had been a professional photographer in her spare time. So she had that photographer eye and she could tell you, this is a really good photo, this is a really bad photo. So she was doing all the sorting. And while she's servicing clients and sorting all this thing, I'm like frantically prompting into ChatGPT, how do I set up a server? How do I set up this? I joined like a bunch of Discord channels. I was asking people like relentlessly, hey, how do I set up a Supabase database? What's a database schema? I'm just like reading a bunch about all these things. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy 4 or 5 months until things finally start to be automated. I actually asked one of the guys that worked with us at Rocket. He was one of the best developers we had. And I asked him if he was free. And he's, look, I have a few hours here and there. So I was just asking him a ton, like, how do I do a website? Where do I host it? All these questions that if you've never done this, you're just, I think, flooded with all the different options, all the ways you can do. And if you don't just make a choice and go for it, like you could just spend weeks weighing your options of whether you should go with this framework or that framework or this thing, the service, that service. There's so many different options. So these guys in these forums, that's how I navigated this like idea maze of building the website and building the dashboard and building whatever.
So you went from Python expert to learning how to quote unquote build software just out of necessity, it sounds like.
Yeah, basically, exactly. We had people that were emailing us like, where are my photos? What is this? And people like swear at you. Doing a consumer business, it builds tough skin, man. It builds really tough skin. People like scream at you like all caps. Yeah, you need to be not so sensitive. I still have a folder. One of my favorite folders on my computer is like screenshots of our Tryiton experience. And it's just like screenshots of people saying the funniest thing, obviously like extremely upset, like furious, writing out these like really funny emails.
I was like digging around on the internet for Tryiton.ai and I stumbled upon your Trustpilot profile. So for people who don't know, Trustpilot is a website that aggregates reviews. And if you're a company who has a lot of good Trustpilot reviews, you can put the Trustpilot mark of approval on your website and it just shows credibility. So I go to your Trustpilot profile and I obviously know Tryiton.ai is very successful and you had this whole TikTok blow up and people love it. But some of the reviews so bad. And
Yeah.
I knowing what I know about the company, it's because yeah, you were figuring it out in the beginning, and you just had to do stuff manually, and you probably got photos back to people a little bit late sometimes. That's just how it goes. But some people, so many people are like, "This is a scam."
Yeah, I think I'm naturally like thick skinned with people online. It really doesn't face me. Whereas it really faces Addie, right? Addie, my partner, like she gets an email like this and she starts digging and she's, who's this person? What are they doing? I don't care so much. So basically I was doing all the customer service and I'm very nice. Like people like say all these like terrible things and I made it a thing. I would respond to each and every single one of the customers being like, hey, I'm going to look into this for you. Don't worry. I got your photos. Whereas Addie would be like, take your money back. I don't want it. I wouldn't like, I would just be super nice all the time. Yeah. So I treated everybody as well as I could. And I gave people a lot of extra stuff and hope for the best. Now, I think Trustpilot is not a good indicator of clients, right? Because obviously, a lot of people, when they are frustrated, they want to vent out, and Trustpilot is an avenue for that venting out. Whereas we have a lot of people that are emailing us really nice things, and we tell them, hey, why don't you leave a post on Trustpilot? And then Trustpilot asks us for money in order to verify the fact that these are real transactions, whereas they don't ask us for money for the bad transactions. So they're trying to make a business out of it. It's really schemy. I never had a good experience with them. And now that leads me to one of my biggest findings in business, I think, is almost everything you see online, almost everything. There's a few things that are real, but almost everything you see online can be bought and can be manipulated with money. And part of the reason that we really want to work on Stella is because we want to level that playing field, right? There's a lot of our competitors. There's a lot of people that like buy these Trustpilot reviews, and you can actually go on Upwork and you can buy Trustpilot reviews, right? And you can buy anything. You can make anything online appear as if it's in your favor when people have just paid for this. For example, right? One of my friends opened a restaurant in Peru. Yeah, no. So basically, he's running a restaurant in Peru, and he was asking people to vote for him on this like award ceremony. And I opened the site, and there's 20 or 30 other restaurants that are going for this award ceremony. And I was like, dude, if you don't buy likes on Upwork or whatever, your competitor will buy these likes. And unfortunately, that really makes a business. Like then this newspaper is going to be like, top 3 restaurants in Peru. This is number 1. And this person got it incorrectly. And then people will go to that restaurant and think that it's the best restaurant because this person just bought these things. So I think there's a lot of the times like people want to do this in a very honest way. And I feel them too. And I almost also want to do it. But unfortunately, yeah, I feel like doing business and competition just makes you like ruthless in that way. And if you want to win these competitions and do these things, other people are going to do it. You can go the hard way, but I think the easiest, you buy the likes, you secure your competition. And yeah, it's a very sad fact.
Was there anything that you had to do that you didn't really like doing, but you felt it was necessary to remain competitive?
This ties into part of the reason why we stopped working on this product, but the product has become pretty commoditized in that there's a gazillion people doing this kind of thing. It's just a race to the bottom of who's the cheapest and who gives you the influencer discount and all these things. But because it's become commoditized, people just type on the search engine, right? Like best headshots or whatever. And you really need to be at the top. If you're not at the top, you're going to lose a lot of traffic. And the people that are at the top, basically, they bought a ton, I think 26,000 backlinks from Chinese websites. So I knew we had to buy these backlinks from like some Chinese websites if we wanted to be at the top of the search engine result. But yeah, we were like, do we really want to play this game where we're just constantly paying our way to get at the top? Or do we want to build good products that people love? And that's partly why we stopped working on this product.
What's the status of the company now? You stopped working on it, but it's still live. Are you just running it as an automated cash generator for you?
We still have it. It's still running. We have some corporate clients that are using our API, and they request us some things from time to time. And I spend a few hours every other day yielding to the requests and improving the APIs. But yeah, we don't do almost anything else.
Is it still profitable?
The interesting thing about these AI businesses is that a lot of the times your cost will scale with this products that you sell. So a lot of our costs are dynamic depending on the number of users, right? So it'll always be profitable because we barely spend any money. There's actually what do you call it? Like a business textbook example. They call it a shark fin business. So you launch this thing and it has a shark fin. And then it just like plateaus. Yeah, it's like a trendy thing that you just capture the moment.
Would you consider selling it, or is there not even a market for that?
We've thought about it. It would be nice. Yeah. We're talking to a few people that are interested. It would be great if we sell it so we can give it to somebody else. But But yeah, it doesn't have the classic SaaS metrics that a lot of private equity investors, a lot of search funds are looking for. So the question is always, oh yeah, what's like, how many people come back? What's your lifetime value of customer and all these things? And we're like, they just come once every 6 months or once a year and they're like, whatever. And I think when they ask us like, oh, why did you guys stop working on it? And we're like, it just requires a lot of marketing and a lot of sales. Then the potential acquirer needs to be looking for a business that requires a lot of marketing and a lot of sales. And sometimes people don't have the experience or they really want to focus on improving some part of the business that the current business doesn't need. So finding a buyer, yeah, you need to find a very specific consumer, a very specific buyer persona, right?
So maybe we transition to Stella AI, which you're working on now. What is the problem exactly that you're solving and what is the product?
We are working on marketing automations, right? That's how we sell it. So Stella is a marketing automator and we are trying to do a lot of stuff at the beginning. But the thing is, these marketing tasks, say what a marketer does on a daily basis, the boring stuff is what we're trying to automate, which is creating a bunch of content, responding to DMs, responding to emails, responding to a little bit of customer service coupled with customer engagement is what they call it, right? Say somebody comments on your post and they say, oh, how much does it cost? Then we like automatically retrieve that data and publish it there. Yeah, that's what we're starting with. We have planned a whole bunch of other things. And we're taking all the learnings that we've gotten from the marketing side of Tryiton and applying it to this startup.
What is the pitch to the customer to use Stella over just hiring like a cheap virtual assistant in the Philippines or something?
Instantly, I tell you, because at Tryiton, we hired, at some point, we had 3 or 4 customer reps and we had some VAs that were doing some of that work. The problem is consistency. For sure. The bots are a lot more consistent. They're 24/7. They respond within 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whereas the people in Philippines obviously have to sleep. And number 2 is they're a lot less error prone, right? A lot of the times our VAs, they were responding things that were not accurate, or they were asking us, hey, how do I answer this? A lot of the stuff that was on our website already, right? So I think AI is actually much better than some VAs. Obviously, you can get very lucky and you can get an incredible VA that just kills it, right? But a lot of the times they have multiple jobs and they forget some of the context and it's really easy to make a mistake.
It seems that Stella is like much, much larger in scope than Tryiton.ai. Tryiton.ai, upload photos, get photos, end of business, transaction. Stella AI is doing a lot of stuff. How are you prioritizing launch features and defining a roadmap? And B, how do you plan on getting your first customers if you haven't already?
So something I love about the stuff we're working on Stella is that Stella is almost, if Tryiton was a combination of like my skill sets and Addie's skill sets as a photographer. Addie used to be a photographer on her part-time, right? Now this is the combination of my skill sets with Addie's skill sets as a full-time member of the economy. Like she's doing marketing all the time. So it's really easy for us to be like, oh, that's a pain point that she's having. And side note, Addie is also running. See, she set up this business in Nigeria. That's why we go to Nigeria a lot. The business is now in very good hands. She works here and there for this business, but she's selling like sanitary pads for women, right? Like menstruation pads in Nigeria. And it's a lot of the work that she has to do, or she's hired some marketers to do. So our first target is to automate some of this tiny stuff that they do. So that's our first business case, right? And that company that she's running with a whole bunch of other people is that's our first customer for Stella. So if we can solve that problem of that business, then we have a good product. And now just being in San Francisco, I tell you, like we've already met a bunch of founders that have no idea what to do with marketing side, right? Like a lot of really good, strong technical founders, strong product developers that just hate marketing and they just don't know what to do. And they end up hiring people and the people like do some subpar work and there's no visibility over, okay, this person's doing say like a lot of Instagram, a lot of Twitter posts. How do you measure that? How do you get visibility? And even like the developer that has nothing to do with marketing, they want to see what kind of stuff's being put out, what kind of reception they're getting, right? A lot of the stuff is very obfuscated and unless the developer has initiative to go on Instagram and check the reception of people in the comments and all these things, it's really hard to bring that into the company. So that's what we want to do, is to optimize the marketing and also give visibility to teams over how the marketing is working. Here's another thing that I had with Addie a lot is she would spend a ton of time doing these posts on Instagram. And I would always be like, I don't think that's working. I was like, why don't you just go and buy the links from the Chinese or go and do all these things? She's no, trust me, the Instagram posts are working. And the problem with Instagram is that you can only see the likes, right? And say something gets 20 likes, I never see anything else. And I'm like, this post got 20 likes. What's the point? Let's just do more SEO, more whatever. But I never noticed the impressions that the post had. And as soon as you stop doing social media, you can clearly see the dip in like sales. And then she has to get back on social media and you can see things picking up. So that kind of visibility is something that we're going to plug in, and we're going to put it into Slack. We're going to put it into like Notion and all these things, so that the whole company can get a feel for the marketing side of things.
Presumably, you're not the only one doing this, and there's a ton of competition, right? Of course, that's
Yeah.
not a reason to start a business, although some would disagree. How do you think about the competition that you're no doubt going up against?
The biggest one that I have in mind is obviously that marketing is like one of the four pillars, or four, I think seven, depends who you ask, pillars of any business, right? Any business has at least 20 to 30% of their revenue devoted for marketing, if not more, depending on the margins they make on the products, etc. So marketing is a big spend. Everybody has to do it. We're not afraid of going against competitors just because of the sheer number of people that are trying tools all the time, and all the tools that Addy has tried. And we constantly see people that have tons of users and their product is crappy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm more confident than ever in this product. I think because I know that Addy is spearheading the sort of the feature development, and it's stuff that she immediately needs. She's our target customer, and that sort of gives me the confidence that what we're building is useful.
The company is in the process of being built, and I don't know if you've launched yet, but I see like a lot of credibility on your website. How did you get all the testimonials on your website?
The testimonials, half of them are fake, obviously. And then the other half is people that are friends with Addy from her previous life, like her previous jobs, she's a lot more active on LinkedIn than me. So she's getting some of her colleagues being like, oh, I could use this or whatever. And then she's, oh, just write this thing. Eventually, when we launch the product fully and we get a lot more like well-known people, we'll throw them up there as well.
What is your main fear of this business? What kills this business?
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Also, if you know any entrepreneurs who went through a period of real struggle or failure before becoming successful, let me know in the comments. I'd love to interview them. The more stories we can tell on this channel, the more entrepreneurs will be inspired to keep going when it gets dark and achieve the freedom we all want in life. All right, back to the video.
I think I'm pretty confident that something will work in this domain, right? Like I'm confident we're gonna hit something that is very useful for marketers, and we're just gonna run with it. So it's about how many clock cycles we get, right? How many features can we launch until we find that thing that's gonna work? But yeah, so I'm not afraid that Stella as a company is gonna fail, like at all. The features that we are working on, the only things that I'm afraid of is that we're relying a little bit too much on these external APIs. And if for some reason Instagram is like, you are not allowed to use our APIs, then that would set us back a little bit. But yeah, I'm just a little bit afraid of relying too much on these big platforms. So I've talked to a few salespeople that work at these companies, and they've assured us that like the API is not going to come down anytime soon, but you never know. You're at the mercy of these big guys, right? And if Zuckerberg decides to pull the plug someday, then you're toast. But
what sort of skill set holes do you anticipate encountering when building this business?
Thankfully, the previous two businesses, like we bootstrapped. The first one, to our misfortune, we bootstrapped. It would have been much better if we used somebody else's money. The second one, we also bootstrapped, but we took the fruits of our labor. So this third time, I think I'm a lot more confident asking people for money. Part of the reason we didn't raise money the first time around is because, I don't know, I always felt I didn't want to take other people's money and then we lose it and then I look bad and then I get shunned from the valley and whatever. Now that we had our, Tryiton that did quite well, and then Stella that I feel a lot more confident in our abilities to like execute this, I'm going to have to learn how to raise money. That's a big one.
How much time are you spending working on this company per week?
We work a lot. Now, it's variable, depends on the country and what we're trying to do. Now that we're in San Francisco, we are attending a lot of meetups and meeting a bunch of people and doing a lot of networking, which is taking a little bit of time away from the actual, like, working on the code base. To keep me sane, I've tried to, like, as soon as we go to a new city, San Francisco being no exception, I find a CrossFit gym and I go to the CrossFit gym and I make sure that I keep a consistent routine with a CrossFit gym. Otherwise, I'm always working. We do take Sundays off. We take Sundays off most of the time. Sometimes we work on Sundays, but almost every time we go and explore the city that we're in, because it would be a shame otherwise.
What do you, Nate, personally suck at? Your biggest weakness, and how do you manage it in your business and as an entrepreneur?
Soft skill wise, it's a double-edged sword because we were talking about customer support, right? And how I'm like pretty good and I take care of customers. I think I sometimes I'm very understanding of people that work with us, and I give him a bit too much slack sometimes. And then obviously like we work pretty hard on this, and then I understand when some of our the people that work with us are not like working too hard, and then I could be better at the tough conversations. So yeah, managing people is very hard. It's very hard, and you really need to know what works for them, because not everything works for everybody. Some people are incentivized by some things that other people are not incentivized by. Yeah, people are very difficult.
Every starting entrepreneur is bombarded with advice, and I've heard you comment that everything you read on the Twitter sphere is garbage. I was curious, what is some of the worst and best advice you've heard or received?
I love this question, mostly because a lot of the times people jump to the advice at the advice point. But something, I come from this big Latin family. Everybody has an opinion on what you're doing. Like everybody, and not just what you're doing. Everybody has an opinion on how you look, on how you walk, on the kind of like where you spend your days, what house you're living. Everybody wants to give you their opinion. I think the best advice is the advice that, coincidentally or not, tries to optimize for whatever it is that you are trying to optimize in your life. A lot of people say they give you advice from a good place, and they tell you, oh, you should really take this job. But what they're telling you this because in their head, what they want out of life maybe is something, right? And sometimes that's lost in the context, right? Like people don't really know what you're like, how ambitious you are, like where do you want to take this company, what you want your lifestyle to be like. We have so many people that are like, oh, don't work too hard, or oh, ask this person. But they don't really know like what you're trying to get out of your journey. So I think a lot of advice, before people give it, they should make an effort to understand what you're trying to get out of the experience. And then, yeah, sometimes some of the advice resonates mostly because the person is trying to optimize for the same thing that you're trying to optimize, right? Be it you want a good life, you want to like a work-life balance, or you want to like run yourself to the ground and try the hardest you can. A lot of people have a hard time being in other people's shoes. So the worst advice is when it's optimized for the wrong thing, whereas the best advice is when it like optimizes for the right thing. So yeah, what I was saying with a lot of the Twitter sphere is garbage is because a lot of people say these blanket statements assuming that it generalizes to everybody, but obviously everybody's situation is different. And yeah, so I wouldn't take everything at face value.
Yeah, meta advice, right? The best advice is to only take advice where that person's, their values, what they're trying to optimize for, aligns with what you're trying to optimize for.
Yeah,
there are probably some exceptions. Maybe a really smart person where they're optimizing for something different than you and they are just full of wisdom. But we all know that's less than 1% of people.
But also, yeah, like you said, these people that are very wise, I think a lot of times they know you personally and they know what you're trying to optimize, and they give you the advice because they know you.
How do you prioritize selecting projects?
I think this is something that I continuously craft. This, how do you get good at picking ideas? And I think that's also like what differentiates an amateur entrepreneur from an experienced entrepreneur. So you can easily tell, okay, this idea aligns with what I'm looking for. So the complexity is there to keep you entertained. That's for sure. It's something that you can do. I think you need to have the skill set, or you need to be curious enough to figure out how to do. There's a lot of people that see something on Twitter and they're like, oh, that seems so fun. And then they go and do it and they're bored. So you need to find something that is complex enough that it keeps you interested so that you can run with it, right, for the long term. Something that has a big market size, also very important, because otherwise you're not solving anybody's problem and people are not willing to pay you. And the last one, I think, is that you need to have some kind of connection to the market that you're addressing. Yeah, so that's how I figure out these ideas. I think another issue that I've been thinking a lot about is a lot of the big returns, a lot of the big rewards come from sticking out and continuing, just toiling at some idea until you figure out how to grow it. So you need to have the stamina to work in that one thing for a very long time. I think we would have had a lot more stamina to work on Tryiton. Maybe we would have 10x it. And I think there is potential for that kind of business, but we just got a bit tired. Yeah, I think the most important thing is it shouldn't be your passion, because sometimes your passion doesn't have a big market, right? So it needs to be a combination of like big market coupled with something that really interests you and you want to work on it for a while. That's not to say you shouldn't work on ideas that have a small market because you're interested in, right? But just expect that small markets are going to take a lot longer. So if you have the runway, if you want to make it a business at all, maybe you just want to dabble in something and make a few bucks. Yeah. So if you have your expectation and the company, your idea matches that expectation, then it's always good to run with it. An interesting observation. So we were in Miami right before coming to San Francisco, and we went to this Techstars event in Miami, right? And they had like 6 or 7 startups that were pitching their idea. almost every single startup, the founder was not a technologist, but they were a person that is like a customer of that technology. And they're just like, with AI, with no code tools, with all these things, they were just figuring out how to build the tool that serves them. Whereas I remember the very first like YC demo day I saw when I was like in college or something, it was almost all technologists that were trying to build tools for these people because technology was super hard, right? So as technology and AI helps people navigate technology, I feel like if you have a specific skill set in a specific industry, you're going to be able to solve problems a lot easier, like using technology. One of the things that I always think about when I see some people like choose jobs, or my sister has jobs, I'm always like, if you're getting closer to knowing something that is going to like that you love and you want to continue knowing and you will continue just like go and pick that job. If you're growing and you're doing something, you're like climbing the proverbial tree. You're climbing the wrong proverbial tree. That's probably not gonna, you're just gonna waste your time. Yeah, whether you stay in a job or not, it's always, are you learning what you want to learn and what you're going to want to continue learning for the foreseeable future? Then that's probably a good place to stay, because then eventually you can spin it into a company.
Yeah. How would your approach to entrepreneurship be different if Addy was not a part of your life?
I think it would have taken a lot longer for sure. I probably would have continued working in finance and then start VC investing or something. Yeah, I don't know if I would have done it. Maybe if I would have met somebody that is also very passionate, because I think that what makes Addy and I good co-founders is that, yes, we have like non-overlapping skill sets, but our interests are very aligned. So finding those people is really hard. Like I have a bunch of college friends that are very smart and I would love to start companies with them, but they're just interested in a problem space that I'm not as interested in. And that's just a recipe for failure. If I'm going to start working on whatever they find interesting, or they're going to work on whatever I find interesting, eventually you're just going to run out of steam, or just gonna get disinterested. So finding that person that has the same ambition, the same interest, and non-overlapping skill set, like I feel like once you have those three, that's like perfect co-founder.
That's incredibly lucky, dude. That's great that you guys have formed this partnership in business and in life. And yeah, man, people should be following you guys closely. It's Nate Landman. Thanks for coming on the show. You can find Stella, mystellaai.com. Put it in the description below.
That's it.
You can also get your headshots taken at Tryiton.ai.com. Is that the website name?
Yeah, that's the headshot. Yeah.
Cool, man. And I'll put your personal social links below so people can follow you. You're clearly going to do a lot of awesome stuff in the coming years, man. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, did you know we are in the middle of an algorithm hunger crisis? The algorithm survives on a diet of likes, comments, and subscribes, but it has a bottomless appetite. Like and comment on this video and subscribe to my channel to make sure the algorithm doesn't go to bed hungry tonight. I'll see you in the next one.